grasping the thin, almost translucent veil between that of fact and fiction, revealing mysteries of the past, folklore passed down from father to son, unsolved murders, and things that go bump in the night. You've entered Deceptive Reality.
Hello and welcome to the Deceptive Reality podcast. My name's Nick, and with me, as always, is the adventurous Bert.
I am adventurous today, Nick. I like it. I like being adventurous.
Oh, yeah.
I've never had someone describe me like that before, Nick.
I want to do a different one every time I do this. So today you're adventurous. Next week, who knows?
Hey, well, technically, I know nothing about what we got going on today, Nick. So it's kind of an adventure for me.
It is. And I'll give you a little preview, not giving anything away. I chose this one because when I was younger, this is the traumatic story that scared me into a lifelong fear of the subject matter we're going to discuss.
Well, you don't know anything about UFOs, so it's clearly not UFOs.
Could
like
be.
You said, your dad had the UFO experience. You didn't have it.
No.
So, and it's clearly not, it's not a Mothman.
No. The Screecher,
Okay.
I'm cool with the Screecher.
The Screecher. We need to get those t-shirts, I'm telling you. If you've not
I know.
watched that podcast, you need to go watch it. The Screecher.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Oh, man.
I think it's one of the audience favorites too, really.
So far, it is moving up. I tell you, the Circleville Letters is kind of trying to catch it, but the Mothman, it just keeps running ahead.
Man, the Mothman's good. I respect the Screecher.
I didn't know it was that big of a deal, honestly.
Oh yeah, they got coffee brands, and the last podcast is doing it. But I'm telling you, the Circleville Letters, if I had watched it and not been on it, I'd be like, give it to me. I need the second part. I love that so much. Most fun I've had in front of a mic, that's for sure.
It's a great story. The problem is I don't know that I'll be able to live up to that great of a story. Like, I know a lot of stuff that's really cool, but that one just had so many twists and turns. And if you're a movie person, right? Like, I'm a movie person. Those are my favorite movies. The one where you think you know what's going on and bam, they surprise you with something.
I'm telling you, I re-listened to it a number of times, and I'm like, earlier in the episode, Nick, what were you thinking? And then a little bit later, I'm like, mid-episode, Nick, what were you thinking? I just wasn't doing it right. I got a couple things, but I was off. I was just getting led every which way.
Well, and the funny thing is, when we come up with these stories, for anyone that doesn't know, obviously, Nick and I research every one of these. And again, we never tell each other what we're going into. That's one of the big questions I get from the people that talk to me is, well, how much did you guys really know going into this? Nothing. Nothing. Generally what happens is Nick will choose a topic, I choose a topic, and then we research it until we jump into the studio right here. And it's funny because even when I research, there's a series of things where I'm like, I had no clue that was a thing. So I know that was the way it was with the Circleville Letters because I did my research, and then I went back and I listened to other people's podcasts, and I'm like, well, that's not what I thought happened. And then I would go and I looked. That's why I had to take the police reports, because I'm like, that's the only thing that I can say is right down the center of what it's supposed to be. So it's kind of cool, but we never know what the other ones do. Like today's is Nick's. I have no clue. I can only guarantee that being Nick and being so's that it scared him. It has to be a great story. Is it going to scare me, Nick?
Lifelong trauma. I don't know. We're adults now. Maybe not. It got me young. But to prove that you don't know what's coming up, you've already guessed wrong about one thing. So you don't know, and you've proven it.
Okay.
But
Perfect.
Yeah. So anyway, there's also, I chose this one in addition to be traumatic to myself, my younger self, it's also got some cultural significance, and it'll teach you some history that you already know about, but you don't know where it come from.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
You've intrigued me, Nick.
Yeah, are you intrigued enough that you want to get into it?
I'm ready. Let's stop talking about it, Nick. Let's be about it. Let's go!
In the quiet and peaceful town of Hopkinsville, Kentucky, on a warm August evening in 1955, something bizarre and otherworldly was about to unfold. It was a night that would forever be etched in the minds of the witnesses as the most terrifying event of their lives. This is the story of the Hopkinsville Goblins, a close encounter with extraterrestrials of the third kind. While this tale may seem unfamiliar, you are no doubt familiar with the effect it has had on modern culture. This tale inspired Steven Spielberg's classic story of E.T., the horror movie franchise Critters that helped launch the career of Leonardo DiCaprio and was the first use of little green men in newspapers.
So, have you heard any of that before?
I have no clue what it's even talking about. I'm intrigued because
Right.
I love me some E.T.
Yeah. Did you know it was based on something?
I had no clue. I just honestly, a lot of times we watch these movies and we're like, where in the world did this person come up with this idea?
Right.
I had no clue. I just assumed E.T. was something that some genius came up with and made a movie about it. Spielberg made out like a bandit on it.
Oh, he sure did. And I'll tell you, it is loosely based on this because E.T. is not like the Hopkinsville Goblins.
I was going to say,
I'll tell you
it's
that
not going to
for free.
scare me. It's not going to scare me, Nick. If it's E.T., listen, I'll go get me some Reese's Pieces or M&Ms, okay?
Mm-hmm.
He'll be my best friend. We're fine.
We'll see.
So this is based in Kentucky, Nick.
Right.
You're in Canada, so I'm still trying to figure out how you've experienced this. Are you saying you've experienced this, or are you saying you've heard stories and it's caused you to have nightmares? Is that what is it?
I didn't experience it. I didn't experience it firsthand. However, I have a long and twisting story about how I caught onto this tale. I'm going to tell that as an update on the next episode. So you're not getting it now because it's quite long on its own.
That's fair enough.
But as a kid, I heard this story in a certain way, and it scared the bejesus out of me.
Well, my mom's from Kentucky.
Oh, had she heard of this, I wonder?
I don't know. I'm super curious now. Like, it's going to kill me.
Call her now. No, just kidding.
Well, the funny part is she would actually probably love that because she wants to know. It's funny because she'll always say, what's the next episode about? And I go, I can't tell you that. You got to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone tries to get out of me, Nick, what the next podcast is, and I don't tell them. So if I told her, hey.
Can we dedicate this to your mom?
I mean, we could.
Yeah. This is for
you. We could. This for you, Liz. Nick gave it to you. It's yours now.
This is my present to you.
Yeah, she's from Kentucky. I know her family. Her dad, I believe, was really there the vast majority of his life. He used to be in coal mines there.
Oh, really? Oh,
yep.
That's really interesting.
Miner. It's super interesting.
So what I'd like to see is they know this tale and they say, this is bunk, this is true, that kind of thing. Because it's really quite a tale.
Really? I can't wait now. Now, since I know,
I'm going to make you wait a little bit longer because I just want to ask: have you seen Critters?
I've not. I didn't even know what Critters is.
Oh, okay. Well, that's like one of Leonardo DiCaprio's first movies. He got his start in this horror movie called Critters with little nasty aliens, and that's maybe more onto this.
Was those like animatronic or something?
Yeah, little fur balls with nasty faces.
I call them gremlins, Nick. Different movie.
No. Different. I think they were competing with Gremlins, though.
Oh, really? I want to
Yeah.
say I might know what that movie is, but I doubt I've seen it.
Okay. Well, that can be your homework for some other time.
I know. Maybe I'll watch Critters over the weekend.
Yeah.
And then I can give another update.
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
I've got 2 updates now. I got to talk to my mom.
Yep.
And I got to watch Critters.
I'm a terrible teacher. I'm giving you so much homework.
Fair. Hey, I like it, Nick. Listen,
Right.
if it's me having to watch a movie, I'm down for it.
Yeah. I mean, don't make your mom watch it. It's pretty.
I might make her
gruesome.
watch it because if it has to do with her
Oh.
home state, she's
Well-
got to know what's happening if she didn't know.
This part is not from me, Bert's mom.
I'm going to tell
And I
her,
can't call her by her first name. That's disrespectful. Sorry.
that's disrespectful. Exactly.
Yeah. My mom taught me
I-
right. I can't.
I mean, I can't say mom the whole time. People's going to be like, what's Bert's mom's first name?
Well, you can say it. I can't. That's
true.
the rule. That
is true. If I get in trouble, I'm in trouble. I mean, pretty much all the time anyway. So it's not even a huge deal. It's standard format.
Par for the course.
Correct. Well, Nick, I'm dying to dive in. Can I see what's happening? Don't make me hold
let's
on
go on to
anymore,
the
Nick.
next bit.
I'm dying. I
It's
want to
all right.
know.
You can do it. Do it.
On a remote farm in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, the Sutton family had gathered for a reunion. This was a special event, and the adults were all playing cards in the kitchen, while the children ran and laughed, being allowed the rare pleasure of staying up past their bedtimes. The main residents of the house were Glennie Langford and her young children Lonnie, Charlton, and Mary. Visiting the family home were 2 of her adult children from a previous marriage, Elmer Lucky Sutton and John Charlie J.C. Sutton, along with their wives Vera and Aline. From slightly further away, Aline's brothers Opie Baker and Billy Ray Taylor, along with his wife June, had rolled in the previous day. As darkness settled in, Billy Ray Taylor and his wife, June, decided to step out from the card game to go outside to fetch a pail of water from the well. As they gazed up at the starlit sky, they noticed an unusual light streaking across the heavens. Their fascination soon turned to fear when the light suddenly halted in midair and slowly landed in a nearby field. They could judge the distance easily from the bright light shining through the tree line.
All right. So the thing you guessed wrong, this is an alien story.
Yeah, I figured that out after I heard the first part. Well, when you said you had experienced some part of it, I thought you meant like you experienced it. And I'm like, his dad experienced the UFO.
Right.
So it's clearly not a UFO story, but now I get it. You had a traumatizing experience hearing about it.
That's right.
Now I get
But this part here, why I paused it here, is because have had an experience like this. When I was younger, we used to have a room where the computer was right by a window. And
Okay.
of course, as a kid, I'd stay up way too late playing on the computer, chatting, all that stuff.
Of course.
And I looked out and I said, wow, that moon's really bright. And it's right above the trees. And I looked at it for a bit, and then I looked over and I saw the moon next to it. And I was like, oh, that's not the moon. What is that? So I'm staring at it intently. And just like in this story, it started to lower through the trees, and you could see the beams coming through the trees as it went down. And I stood up straight, stiff, ran to my bed, pulled the covers over my head, and never thought about that again until I heard this story again.
Hold on.
Yes.
You can't drop a bomb on me, Nick, like that, and then be like, yep, so that's what happened. So let's rewind.
All right, let's rewind. This
You were
isn't
on-
the story I'm telling next time, by the way.
Okay. You're on your computer.
Yep.
You look out.
Mm-hmm.
You see a bright light.
Think it's the moon.
Think it's the moon. You look over. You go, oh, nope, there's the moon. And then you watched it land.
Down to the trees, landing somewhere in the forest.
When was this?
Oh, and this must have been like 25 years ago. Not to give away how ancient I am.
Nick,
Yeah.
you've experienced UFOs.
If that's what this is, yeah, I think I did. And I was scared.
Listen, we could make this an exclusive right now, Nick. Have you ever had them take you up in the spaceship?
Not that I know, but you might not know.
You might not know. Listen, hey, the Men in Black. Boink.
Yeah. Or, like, have you ever heard of sleep paralysis?
Yes, I do know. Well, I probably know too much about sleep paralysis, but that is a symptom of sleep paralysis.
That's what they say, right?
That's what they say. That's why what movie was, we're going all the movies. I'm sorry, everyone listening.
Oh, that's okay.
What movie was that, where they had to pull the information out of them through hypnosis? Yeah.
The fourth kind.
That was a form of sleep paralysis they talked about in that movie also.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what you need, Nick.
Hypnotism? Maybe, because I'll tell you what. I've had sleep paralysis twice in my life, and that night was one of them.
If there's anyone that knows hypnosis, I want you to contact me. Okay. The Bert. I'm the Bert. You can see my name. My name's down here somewhere.
The Bert.
Okay.
I like that.
The Bert. Contact me. We're going to set you up with Nick. We're going to have you hypnotize him. We'll turn him into a chicken. And then we'll come back and we'll get some alien information out of him. I just want the chicken for blackmail material for later, but we'll talk about that. Nick.
I feel like I'm using this for therapy, and I apologize for that. Like I have some alien trauma.
I'm super impressed because I have things that I don't divulge to anybody that I figure once we come across X factor thing, I'm going to divulge that information. We've not made it there yet. So for anyone that listens to our podcast, there's going to come a point in time where I'm going to tell you something that really only myself, my wife, maybe my parents a little bit know, and that's it.
Oh, this is getting deep.
But you've done something I've always wanted to do, but I've not had an opportunity. There's been no UFOs outside my windows.
I don't want them. They're horrifying. I'm scared, man.
I want to see it so bad, Nick, so bad. UFOs fascinate me so much.
So you know I'm a skeptic on a lot of things, right? Like I'm not. So I'll tell you briefly because I want to get into this story. But I'll tell you briefly what happened on the second time I had sleep paralysis. It's kind of funny. I had sleep paralysis, and sometimes when you wake up from that, you continue a dream even though you're awake. And it just so happened that that dream was about being abducted by aliens. And I thought the aliens were outside my house. So I'm still having the dream. I wake up enough that I can move again. So I run to the window and I'm looking up at the skies because I'm not fully out of this state yet. And I had a dog at the time. And he was reacting to me. At the time, I thought he saw something in the skies too, because he was reacting to me. So he jumped up at another window, was looking in the sky, howling and barking viciously. He was just reacting to me. But at the time, it was like, oh, this is true. This is happening right now.
My favorite part of this podcast so far, Nick, is the fact that I've learned that you've been abducted by aliens, whether you know it or not.
Oh.
And eventually, we're going to bring this out on the podcast.
I would love to get hypnotized. I would
That's
love
like
that.
Close Encounters of the, what is that, fifth?
Canadian kind.
Yeah, of the Canadian kind, Nick.
That's right. That's right.
I've learned something about you. How long have we known? A long time. How have I never
I don't
known
tell
this
people
about you at all?
this. Honestly, it's just, this has brought this out in me.
Very fascinating so far. I'm super, super into this. Man, I got so many questions, but we're never going to finish this story if I don't shut up. I'm sorry, Nick.
That's true. Yeah, well,
can't help
I'll give
myself.
you a little education on after the next segment about the different kinds of abductions.
I love
But
education.
would you like to hear a little more?
I do want to hear more, Nick.
All right, let's do it.
Frantically, the couple ran back to the house and described what they had seen. After a few moments of silence, they were met only with an uproar of laughter from the other adults in the house. The family were the sensible, religious type, not prone to flights of fancy. Billy Ray and June didn't let up, however. It was clear from the looks on their face that they had seen something in the night sky. Curiosity got the better of them, and the adults in the family decided to investigate. Armed with shotguns, they approached the area where the light had landed, only to find a group of odd-looking creatures exiting a disc-like metallic craft. The creatures, described as having large eyes, pointy ears, and long arms with claw-like hands, sent shivers down their spines. They were light gray in color but emitted a faint green glow. One of the Sutton gasped involuntarily at the shock, and as if in unison the ears of the creatures turned towards them suddenly. The creatures began to turn around to face their unexpected guests. Terrified, the family retreated to the safety of the farmhouse. But the ordeal was far from over.
Baby, did you see that thing coming down? Hey, get my Remington real quick. We're going to go check this out. This is how you know it's a Kentucky story. They went straight to shotguns, Nick, instantaneously.
I sense that Kentucky's a lot like Cape Sable Island, where I'm from, because that would be our first reaction to grab the guns.
That's
head out.
Well, it's just funny. It was a shotgun. So now I'm just confused by everything, Nick, because it's little gray men don't have ears, first and foremost. So that's a bit perplexing to me.
Mm-hmm. So I've included a picture. I don't know if you can see that right now, but you can look at it later.
I can move stuff around, Nick. You best believe.
Because there's a couple things I want to talk about about their appearance here. So the first thing is, in the first part of the story, I said this is the origin of the term little green men, right?
Correct.
But what color are these guys?
I'm still trying to get there.
Oh, okay. Well, they were gray, pale gray, but they had a faint green glow. So when the newspapers reported this, they were trying to sensationalize it, and they coined the term little green men. And that was the first time that term was used for extraterrestrials.
The thing that I guess is confusing to me, like every UFO story we've ever talked about, or we've seen, or we've read, or we've watched, or there's movies on, they all have a very distinct look. Right. And you know what? So for anyone that doesn't know a little behind the scenes information, we obviously have the narration that goes on in all of our podcasts. When it's Nick's turn, he sends me a file, and he sent me the file for this one. And when he sent it to me, he's like, "Hey, here's stuff for the Instagram for the future, obviously."
Yeah, but he can't look at it. That's the problem.
Yeah. So, but the problem is, it still shows me a preview of what it was.
Oh, yeah.
And all I could think when I looked over there is, why is he sending me pictures of Pokemon?
Well, this is another cultural thing. There's a Pokemon based off of this creature.
What?
Yeah. Yep, that's what one of the pictures is, actually ripped from Pokemon.
What Pokemon is it? Do you know?
I had looked it up, but I'm drawing a blank now, and I'm just checking my notes. And of course, it doesn't appear like it's written down, but the file name might have it.
Is that the Sableye?
That's the one. It's called Sableye. For any of you Pokemon fans out there.
My kids are going to be all about it. That's the only one that it showed a preview for.
So this had a big effect on culture. Yeah, you got it right on.
Because I'm like, why is he sending me Pokemon pictures for?
I was traumatized by Pokemon at a young age. Actually, I'm way older than Pokemon.
I bet you were. So the other picture that you sent me, it looks like a diagram. Is that what you're referring to?
Is it like a drawing of the creature?
Yeah. It's weird because no other UFO stories do they talk about ears.
Nope, this is the only one I've heard. And this is like one of the earliest ones ever recorded popularly. Like we're getting a lot of things out of this, like movies based on it. The term little green men, which was popular all my life, came from this. And it's got Pokemon based off of it. So even in Japan, they're hearing about this somehow.
Well, the government, Nick.
The government?
The government told them all about it.
Ah, prepped them
they were
just in case.
Eavesdropping.
Ah.
So when I look at this, though, I mean, the rest of it, and obviously for anyone that doesn't know, we're going to put this up on the Instagram also.
Yeah.
The thing that I find striking, though, is the rest of it, I mean, it fits what we talk about when we talk about UFOs. Like it has long arms. But here's the thing. They don't skip chest day. Look at them pecs.
Oh, I know, right?
Gosh, dang. I'd be scared of it too, Nick.
Yeah, they're pretty scary. Now, there's a lot of theories about what these things are later on that'll sort of bring you in on. But as a preview of what's coming up and sort of about this part, when we say close encounter of the second kind, the third kind, that's from something called the Hynek scale. Have you ever heard that term before?
No clue what you're talking about.
So when UFOs and aliens started to come about, there was a guy who was a researcher and he came up with a scale of how you can rate interactions with extraterrestrials, and I can tell you what they are.
Okay.
So the first category is nocturnal lights. That's just lights in the sky. So that's sort of my
That's
experience.
you.
That's my one. Lowest rating, sadly.
Higher rating than mine, Nick.
Well, who knows? Maybe you need to be hypnotized too. You might have saw something.
Maybe.
Your family was from this area.
That is true. That's valid.
Yeah. So the next one up is daylight discs. That's where UFOs are seen in the daytime.
Okay.
And usually
like
have...
the hubcap picture one, right?
Yeah, that kind of stuff. That would be like the second kind here. Then we get to the third kind, which is radar visual. So this is a little more evidence because they've shown up on radar.
Like
then
Favor,
we get into
the what was he, Navy or something? He was up in an airplane. Lieutenant Favor, I think's his name.
Yeah, and they saw it on the radar and were reporting it back and forth. So that would be that one. Then we get close encounters of the first kind. And that's visual sightings of unidentified flying objects seemingly less than 500 feet away.
Okay, that's close. Listen.
And that's when you can see details.
When you was looking outside your window, though, and you saw the bright light, how far away was that?
It was further than that, and I couldn't discern detail. That's the big separator there. And I didn't have a radar. Ah, sorry. I don't think I'm going to make it up the scale. Unless I'm further down on the scale and I don't know it.
That could be Nick.
So then we have close encounters of the second kind. And that's where they've left a physical effect. So this can be interference in the functioning of a vehicle or electronic device. Oh, actually, animals reacting. That could have been my dog.
That was your dog, Nick.
Yeah.
You're a 2. Close encounters of the second kind. You've
I
heard
might
it here
be.
first, folks.
I might be. They're going to abduct me. The men in black are going to come and like study me.
They already have. They already have, Nick.
Or they have.
Boop. They did the little blink thing.
Yeah. I don't like those guys.
Yeah.
Then we got close encounters of the third kind, in which you actually see an entity. So these people are having a third kind right now.
Which the movie, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So they saw the...
So that would be that. Well, that would actually not be that. Because the scale was later extended to have close encounters of the fourth kind. And that's where a human is abducted by a UFO or its occupants.
Which happened at the end of the movie. Technically, it happened through the movie, but we didn't see it until the end.
Yeah, spoiler alert if you haven't watched a 40-year-old movie.
That came out like 40 years ago, Nick. Good night. If you've not watched it, geez, what have you been doing with your life?
Right, exactly. And the last one here is not happened in that, well, some crazy people claim it's happened, but that's where you get messages from extraterrestrials and you have a back and forth conversation.
Huh? You mean like
you're having direct conversations with them. Oh, it could be telepathically too.
Yeah, because when they're up on the UFO or on the little spaceship things, a lot of people say they have telepathic conversation.
Yeah. So that would be the fifth kind. But when I picture that, I'm thinking like the aliens told me to create this religion and everyone
Hellbop.
Yeah, that kind of thing. That's
Gotcha.
what I think of when I think of the fifth kind.
What if?
Mm-hmm.
You know how we get that gut feeling from time to time?
Yep.
What if that's UFOs, Nick?
It could be. I'd need further evidence.
There's got to be logic behind it.
Maybe you're hungry.
I don't know why I'm trying to fit everything into a UFO narrative, but
I think we're both getting paranoid right now. Yeah,
no, I'm trying to get myself to the fifth kind, Nick.
I know. You're gonna have an experience. You're gonna have an experience, man. Like you can't be in this business that we're putting ourselves in without having experiences.
Well, we just have to wait until my subject comes up, Nick. We've not actually done one of my subjects yet, and then I'll be like, "Listen, I know all about this."
It's gonna kill me. This is gonna kill me waiting. I wish you hadn't said anything.
On top of my wife,
I'm gonna die.
I could literally tell my wife, tell this story, and she would tell it to you, and you'd be like, wow.
Yeah, the anticipation is gonna, like, it's hurting my soul right now. I'm sure you can see it on me. I'm hurt that I can't hear this right now.
The amazing thing is, though, looking at this diagram, which this is the guy you're talking, the little guys we're talking about. So these are the critters. The movie that you talked about named Critters, it was about these things, or it was something that was like based loosely on.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
what they were based on, or
yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I think I would say Critters is based more on the encounter, and E.T. is based more on the idea.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So
I want to watch that movie so bad now. Yes, I do.
All right.
You can't. It's hard for me to not want to go further, Nick. But there's so many thoughts going through my brain. But let's see.
That's why I choose these. I want to encourage these conversations.
It's interesting. I want to know what their feet look like, though, because E.T. had big feet, and this diagram says feet not seen.
Oh.
Back at the house, the family started to doubt what they had seen. To not scare the children, they returned to their game of cards and talked over the situation in hushed whispers. Was it possible that 8 grown adults had imagined the same thing? It was a little over an hour later, by accounts, that the Suttons' dog began to bark frantically outside, rousing Lucky and Billy Ray to investigate. Approaching the dog cautiously, they struggled to see what it was barking at in the darkness as the dog pulled furiously at its chain. It was then that they noticed something was stirring in the nearby trees surrounding the farmhouse. Before even seeing the cause, Lucky and Billy Ray ran back to the house and quickly rearmed themselves before returning to the scene. As the men stepped back out onto the porch, they once again saw the little gray men as the other adults, and unfortunately now the children looked on in horror. No taller than 3 feet in stature, these humanoid-like figures shuffled toward the men, their thin, overly long limbs dragging behind them. Their glowing yellow eyes seemed glazed over and reflective. Their oversized heads bobbed under their own weight. Suddenly and without hesitation, Lucky Sutton shot the humanoid at point-blank range with his shotgun. To his surprise, the impact made a metallic ping noise as the nearest creature fell backwards against a nearby fence. The other creatures retreated back into the tree line.
So that's a little odd. They never bring it up again, but what's that sound? What could that have been?
It's a cyborg.
A cyborg?
cyborg, man. So, and again,
Right.
I've listened to a lot of alien stories. The things that I always notice is the same across all UFO stories. They're all asexual.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no defining sexual body parts.
Yeah. And
So
the
you
picture
can't-
supports that.
Correct. So the picture supports it, right? But it makes me think, right? Like when I think about us as humans, we venture into space, or so it's theorized that we've been places, right? No, there's no proof that we've walked on the moon or anything like that. But
Well, the moon's not real, I think you said as well.
yeah, correct. That's why we've never been there, Nick. We've had this conversation. Okay.
I'm not going to get into that again. I'm going to let you continue, but you know my feelings about this. Moon is real.
So
hashtag.
we have these the moon's not real hashtag. We have to get off the ground. It takes us so much force.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're in rockets. It's all rocket propelled. UFOs, all the UFOs, none of them has ever been said to have anything that propels it. It's always
Mm-hmm.
just moving of its own accord, typically with little to no noise. It makes me wonder. Clearly, these things are heavily more intelligent than we are, like extravagantly more intelligent.
Has to be.
Has to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
If their spaceships that they have is so much farther advanced than ours, it tells me that the thought process has to be significantly more developed than where we are. But then it makes me think, like, if you're that kind of a advanced whatever, right? We can't call them human, right?
Mm-hmm.
Advanced species, I guess would be the best thing to put it. Like, what else? Like, when I look at these things, I don't think advanced. Like like I said, their arms was dragging behind their body. You would think they would have
Right.
came up with something to where that wouldn't be a thing.
Yeah. Or my other thought process is maybe they spend way more time off planets in zero gravity. I think they say a lot of that over time you'd become skinny and thin and, elongated.
They say that, but we don't. I mean, heck, how would
We don't know. We don't know.
We have no clue. Like, we've never had a baby in space. We don't even know what that would be like.
No.
Obviously breathing alone would be significantly different in space. I don't know. That's the only thing I don't understand about any of these UFO stories I ever hear about is that part of it. But like a prime example, we're hearing he gets shot with a shotgun, and anyone that shot a shotgun, right? It didn't go into the kind of ammo. Who knows if it's bird shot or a deer slug or whatever it is, but it's a metallic sound.
Right. When it hit.
What if, now think about this. This is where I was initially going.
Mm-hmm.
If we look at where our podcast is right now, 2023, and we look at the technology, you and I personally use technology just to come up with the podcasts.
Right.
We are working as I guess you could say, human species to have what? Like cyborg things, right? Like AI technology. We've got robots now. Like what's the robots that does all the fancy stuff now?
Like
Freaking
the ones that they're teaching to do obstacle courses and stuff like that.
Like why can't I think of the name of whatever that is?
It's Boston Dynamics is the one that
Boston
does it.
Dynamics. That's it. Yeah. Think about it. Like that has obviously advanced, and that's now in 2023. What's it going to be in another 50 years?
Right. Another 5 years even at this rate.
But think, even if, and again, I'm saying even if, because no one really knows, we sent stuff to the moon, but we've got like rovers and stuff that went to the moon before us.
Right.
who's to say that these, goes back to the Shag Harbor incident.
Mm-hmm.
What if instead of UFO or, whatever these species of whatever it is, instead of going to the planets themselves, they have the technology to send something else
to
planets.
Yep. And this is kind of what I wanted you to lead into. Have you ever heard of the show Black Mirror?
So we watched, I think, 2 episodes of Black Mirror and then we didn't go back. I thought it was a weird show.
Okay. It is a weird show. But what I want to bring up about that is they have an episode this past season where, and my friend pointed out how silly this is, but I'll get to that in a second. They have astronauts in space, but so they don't go crazy in isolation, they can control robot bodies of themselves on Earth and live with their family, do all this kind of stuff, but they're in space. So my friend said, it doesn't make any sense at all. Why didn't they put the bodies on the spacecraft, the robots on the spacecraft, and leave the regular people on Earth in safety? But what if that's how aliens do it? They control them.
I mean, think about it. There is a company that's right now working on the technology to download human thought processes into computers. And unfortunately, right now, we're not technologically at a point to where that's even a thought. They actually downloaded something. I think it was a worm.
Right.
And it took like an entire server to download the thought process of a worm.
Right.
Which at first I'm like, how do you download a thought process? Like that doesn't make any sense.
And how do you know you've done it?
Well, that's what's weird. And this is where, again, I think UFOs has came and gave us information, Nick. They took the brain of this worm, put it into a server, and then had the server basically act out the worm's life in a artificial worm. And it was moving around just like the worm would, in which we don't have technology now that will allow us, but there's a delay. And you could tell it was trying to figure it out, but it's like, why is there this delay?
Yeah.
So, a human brain, obviously vastly smarter most of the time than a worm. Okay.
Right. Most people.
I'm not gonna say for everyone. Not
That's
everyone,
right.
by the way.
Some exceptions may apply.
Exactly. But, again, if these are so far advanced of a species, who's to say they haven't figured out how to do that? And these are literally, we're just dealing with robots. And like any machinery, things go wrong from time to time. But it might explain how, like, again, when they talk about going 20,000 light years or something like that, maybe that's how they're able to travel so quickly without it having an effect on their body.
Well, I think like how humans are evolving is that we have machines and we have people, and we're sort of joining. So we will be machines and people. And what's 10,000 years to a machine? Nothing really.
It's nothing. Skynet, baby. Skynet's here.
Thank you, Skynet.
Thank you, Skynet. We appreciate your
we're your loyal servants. Thank you.
100%. 100%. Yeah, but again, I find it amazing, Nick, that it's a case where this is happening in, what I can only assume is rural Kentucky. Like this sounds like rural Kentucky.
Oh yeah, the names alone should give it away, I think.
Sutton, yeah. First thing,
or Lucky and Billy Bob and
the Suttons, though. That's like an iconic name in Kentucky.
Is it? I did not know that. Okay.
Yep. There's some Suttons here in Ohio too. They come from a very prestigious line, Nick.
It could be these Suttons, and you'll see why later.
Oh, Nick, stop doing that, Nick.
I'm the king of cliffhangers. Would you like to know more, though?
I do.
All right.
Let's go.
Anxious to see what the creature they had killed was, Billy and Lucky cautiously began to approach the fence. The fence now glowed green in some spots as the creature had. Billy presumed this was its blood. As they got within a few paces of the creature, it sat up, suddenly startling both men. It appeared unfazed, and they too decided to make a retreat into the house. As they reached the porch, a long, spindly, clawed hand reached down from the overhang and grabbed Billy Ray by the hair. Almost lifting him off his feet, he found he could not free himself. The creatures were exceptionally strong for their size. If it weren't for his wife grabbing and pulling him back into the house, minus a clump of hair, he would not have been able to do so himself. Almost at the time they closed the door, the power suddenly flickered off, likely the doings of the creatures that were clearly now surrounding and on top of the house. The family screamed and clutched their children close, with the armed men between them and all doors and windows. The creatures could be heard scurrying across the roof and overhang. Every now and then one would rake its claws across the windows or try to open the door, only to be met with a blast from a shotgun or a pistol to very little effect. This attack on the house and family lasted for over 4 hours.
Can you imagine being under siege for that long from a bunch of creatures? I think they said there's 15 of them.
See, but here's where stories sometimes lose me, right? Because it's like most of it, I'm up with it and I'm up with it. And I'm like, yeah, I can see that happening. And this totally fits. And, this isn't unrealistic. But then I hear stuff like this and then I go, because, obviously for anyone that knows me, I come from a sales background, right? And the first thing they teach you in sales, or one of the first things they teach you, is don't leave someone on hold too long.
Right. I've heard that before.
And they talk about, if someone's on hold for a minute, it really seems like 5 minutes, right?
Right.
So when I hear this stuff, I think back and I go, how many stories do I hear UFOs attacking people? But then when I look at the diagram, the logical part of my brain goes, there's no way that thing's strong.
Right.
Because regardless of where you are, the basic concept of muscle, I would assume no matter where you go in space, it has to be in the same realm as what we are here at Earth, is what I would assume.
And astronauts have a big problem with losing muscle mass and weight in space as well, right?
So it's like you've got something pulling someone from an awning. Not only that, but like, even if it grabbed him by the hair, which is what they're talking about.
Right.
I don't know if you've ever been grabbed by the hair, but you're not picking someone off the ground by their hair. It's going to rip out.
Yeah. Which I think is what they said eventually happened, but
after
there
the
might
wife
be some
told him, though.
Yeah, exactly.
So for me, it's like, it's parts like that. I wish do I think something happened? Obviously.
Right.
But at this point, it becomes, okay, how much of it's real and how much of it's false?
Right. Is it exaggerated?
How much of it's embellished? Exaggerated? Yeah. And it's like, man, but again, I could understand how someone could be like, yeah, man, we were under siege for, 4 hours?
Yep, 4 hours.
First off, listen, I would like to pride myself in having lots of ammo. Mm-hmm. I don't have 4 hours worth of alien siege at my house. Which reminds me, I might need to order some more ammo. But
just in case.
Listen, now I know they can go 4 hours. They go a long time. Okay.
So it'll say how much ammo they had later on.
Oh, it does say?
Yes, it actually does say. It's in the police reports. But
could you imagine if you're the police and you get this phone call?
Man, I don't want to give anything away, but they didn't even call the police.
Okay.
I don't want to give that away. But it's not a big deal, I suppose. They didn't call the police. We'll say that. But sort of what I want in this part to bring up is, and you know what? There probably is embellishments, but people, when they get scared, they remember things differently.
Oh, for sure. 100%.
So it's like this thing grabs him by the hair as he's passing under. Maybe he's just caught up in it. He's like, oh man, I was almost pulled off my feet kind of thing. Maybe that didn't happen. Maybe it did. Maybe he can't free himself. Oh yeah. I mean, if I get really startled, I imagine anything's happening at that split second before your brain reorganizes itself.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, not that I ever get scared. I am a solid vessel.
Right. I mean, normal people like me, I get scared all the time. So
For sure, 100%, Nick.
aliens around every corner.
I've seen stories. Well, for you, yeah.
Yeah.
For you,
anywhere.
They don't come to me, Nick. They don't like me so much, you know. But again, this goes back to almost the same conversation we had earlier, just a few minutes ago. What if this is like a cyborg kind of cybernetic, I guess would be?
Yeah.
It would have stupid strength.
Yeah, because muscle mass doesn't apply to machinery.
It doesn't. Like, and a lot of times I try to think, here on Earth, we use, I mean, how do we create muscle in machines, right? We use typically some sort of, fluid, right? It's either going to be
pistons
fluid, like
stuff.
Hydraulics, right?
Yep.
Some form of hydraulic, or we'll typically use some type of a pulley system.
Right.
But what if you have advanced beyond that, right? Like now we have things that we've started working with recently within the last 10 years, where instead of using hydraulic, we're using air pressure.
Right. I've seen that.
So to think that 500 years from now, we're not even using that, I don't know. It definitely makes me wonder. Like, again, that part of the story, I can even point to that and go, I get where you're coming from. And I think that's possible, but picking him up by his hair, come on, man, that just don't make no sense.
I hadn't thought of it, but then our earlier conversation with cybernetics and stuff like that, the strength could totally be there. The hair thing, I don't know how that works really. I've never really had my hair ripped out before. I don't know. Yeah.
I have.
It doesn't take much, or?
I mean, it depends on how much you grab, right? It's like, you know, for anyone that knows, I've got a little bit of an MMA background, and a lot of times it will happen by mistake. So, you know, back what I used to do is we used to have gis, and gis are very, very heavy. But sometimes if you go to grab a gi and you're doing it quick, you'll grab a handful of hair by mistake.
Right.
And I mean, I've had my head yanked back, but you know, I'm sitting there thinking that was by mistake and it was released.
Right.
But I'm sitting there thinking it wouldn't have taken a whole lot more to probably rip out. But think about it. You know, women, when they typically get in fights and they've got long hair, what's the first thing any woman goes for? The hair, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I would assume if that was the case, they would just be throwing each other around by the hair. But
I've seen that. So that kind of happens.
Yeah, but we're talking about from the air being pulled up. We're talking, I mean, we don't know. Who was it? Billy Ray? Is that who it was?
I think it was Billy Ray.
I mean,
Bob, I forget which now.
How long was Billy Ray's hair? And
how much did he weigh?
How much did he weigh? I mean, listen, if that's the case, I want to know what kind of shampoo and conditioner he's using.
It's Head and
I need
Shoulders,
to give me some
clearly.
of that. Yeah, I mean, this man has some amazing hair follicles.
Yeah. So this part's a little up in the air. I think it's an embellishment, but I think he was grabbed.
Something happened.
Maybe he wasn't lifted up. But something got him there. Maybe he just got caught on a nail or something and got scared. Who knows?
I'm dying to know what the police report is. Is that in the next segment, or do I have to wait further for that?
You might have to wait further, but we've been talking about it so long, I'm not sure. So let's find out.
The only reason, Nick, before we go on, the only reason why is because when I hear facts, that's typically where I go, yeah, that's conceivable, that's conceivable, that's conceivable, that's conceivable. Yeah. Like with all this embellishment, here's the thing, is I think a lot of times people, when they embellish too much, it takes people from going, you know, I could see that happening to going, man, they're lying. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're gonna
Okay.
have to get into like motives later on, though. Like at the end, it's really takes a weird direction when
Ooh,
it
a
comes
twist.
to that kind
We
of
like
stuff.
twists.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's go. I want to hear it, Nick.
At sunrise, the family were finally sure that the creatures had left hours earlier. They all piled into vehicles and immediately showed up at the sheriff's office in town. Being from a small area, they were known to the police as trustworthy folk and were without reason to hold any disbelief toward the Suttons. Interviewing each member separately, including the 3 small children, they all confirmed the same events, excluding the portions they were not witness to directly as one would expect. Medical examiners found the Suttons to have twice the resting heart rate of a normal person and the children to be particularly disturbed by the events. Although the Suttons were known to be honest folk, the story was much too outrageous to believe. Concerned about a possible gun battle between local citizens, 4 city police officers, 5 state troopers, and 3 deputy sheriffs ventured out to the farm. Curiously, without being called, 4 military police officers from the nearby United States Army Fort Campbell were already at the Sutton farmhouse and assisted in the investigation. The scene was an absolute disaster. Most windows had been blown out by gunfire, and the front and back doors were riddled with holes. Nearby trees were obviously damaged by buckshot and pistol rounds. It turns out the family had spent over 4 cases of ammo in those 4 hours. It was recorded in official documents that police and Air Force officers from nearby Fort Campbell found no evidence of a hoax. No illicit substances or alcohol were found on the farm, and further, it was well known around town that Glennie was deeply religious and allowed no alcohol on the property for any reason. Unfortunately, no evidence of the little gray men were found other than one item noticed as the sun began to set. The faint green glow was still present by the fence where the first attacker had been shot at point-blank range.
I can tell you enjoyed that part. Let's unpack.
My favorite part of that, Nick, I'm not even going to lie. Like, I could totally see this happening, Nick.
Right.
In Kentucky. They're like, baby, get the double Rivetons out, get the Smith & Wessons out. Baby.
If you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple, please go to YouTube and watch this, because Bert was melting down. He enjoyed that funny. Big time.
You know, and the best part is, typically for YouTube, whenever there's the narration, I just go to pictures of whatever it is it's talking about.
Right.
I may have to do a blooper reel for this one because I about died when it said, there's these holes over here, and listen, they used an entire thing. I'm like, this story, I know it's true.
Yeah.
I don't know.
This is the fact that brought it around.
Listen, we came back full circle. Now I have 0 doubts again. Golly, man. 4 crates of ammo, too.
Yeah, well, cases is what they said. Now,
Cases,
I'm familiar with cases, and you're familiar with cases, but people from not redneckish places probably don't know. You have for shotguns, we'll say, you have a shell, which is one shotgun, quote unquote, bullet. And you have a box of shells. And then a case is probably like 24 boxes of shotgun shells. And what, 12 or 24, I forget.
Yeah, well, it depends. Like, you can get, like, probably the easiest way for me to explain this. Like, let's use, for example, because shotguns are kind of a weird, they're in their own realm,
right?
Typically. Let's use, for example, something that most people would have, like a pistol, right? I think a pistol,
and there was a pistol there.
Popular.
There was a pistol there, so yeah.
So, I personally like my preferences is, 40 caliber is typically what I prefer. I just like a big bang.
Right.
Like what Nick's talking about, you'll have, 1 round, and then you'll have your box. Now, there's different size boxes. You can go anything from 50 to 100. But when you look at cases, or sometimes they're called crates, we're talking 1,000 1,000 bullets, 500 to 1,000, depending on the size that you buy. So I can only assume if it's Kentucky, we're talking the big boys. Okay.
Right.
Like when they do fireworks, they do missiles. Okay. So I can only assume they's like, baby, let's get the big box. No, we're not going to get no smokes this week.
No. And they used a case of bullets and a case of shells. Yeah. I think it was one of each, or they said 2 cases, but that's my presumption. So it was a 4-hour game of whack-a-mole.
It really was. It really was. Dude, I died. When that part came up, I literally died.
Yeah.
I almost missed the rest of the thing because I couldn't stop laughing. I tried so hard to stop laughing.
Well, that was my favorite moment. I'm glad that came up.
Golly, that's crazy.
So
my other favorite part is they called literally everyone probably in this town. Hey, get the highway patrol over here. Okay.
Yeah.
Get the sheriff. Hey, is Bill working today? Tell Bill over at the police department. Listen, we gotta. Hey, what do? You're a donut maker. Come on.
Yeah.
We're gonna look for these UFOs.
Well, that's not what they thought. They thought this family of 11 people had gotten into a gunfight with their neighbors. So they thought, because they didn't believe the UFO thing.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I could see,
But curiously, I can't tell if you were laughing too hard to hear this part, but someone was already there when they came back.
Oh, no, I did not hear that.
The military police from I can't remember the fort that it said there, were already at the farm when they got there. No one had called them. But they helped with the investigation.
That always happens, though, Nick. That always happens.
Already there.
Like this,
already there.
Like this Nevada thing where they found that UFO on the police officer's body cam and stuff like that. Yep. That night they were there.
Right. They get there.
And all these stories that happens.
Mm-hmm.
There's something.
And that's in their police report. That's not people estimating. That's in the police report from those 400 men that they brought there. So not 400. That's an exaggeration.
Crazy. This is turning into one of my favorite stories. That gunfight part just made it.
Just
for me.
it's the laughs that get you.
Kiss.
Yeah,
it's
I'm glad with this.
Kiss.
See, this is doing what I hoped. Well, actually, the laughter was a bonus. That was real fun for me. But what I had hoped it would get us talking on these different topics and stuff like that, and it has. But the other part that came up in that is they didn't find any evidence. They saw that they were shooting up everything, blasting holes all through their house, hitting trees and stuff. But they did when the sun started to set. They saw the fence and the ground around it was glowing green. So they did find that. However, and this is the point where I'll put in some of the theories that people have explained it away. They said, well, sometimes that glowing green is just a mold, a bioluminescent mold that appears. Weird coincidence. That's the spot where they shot the creature.
Yeah, no. That makes no sense.
Yeah. And then they said, well, we really do think that the family saw something, but we think it was owls. They think it's owls.
They said Mothman was owls too.
Yeah, they blame everything on owls. I don't know.
Is that like the go-to? Who shot Tupac? An owl. I'm pretty sure it's probably an owl.
Owl did that. It's swamp gas or owls.
Why is it always an owl?
I know. Well, like they always show this one picture of baby owls and how spooky they are. But
no, I get it. Listen, they're creepy. I get it.
Yeah.
But
these people have been living on a farmhouse for how long and they never seen an owl before?
Correct. Yeah. That's crazy.
Owls don't have hands.
No.
Like owls aren't made out of metal unless you count that old animatronic one in the old Sinbad movies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's not the only way that's going to happen.
They said it's owls, and owls are territorial, so they attack the farmhouse. And the green
That's
glow
stupid.
is an unrelated bioluminescent fungus that just happened to show up that day, and
That's
all
stupid.
that kind of
That's
stuff.
See, again, it makes me go back to think that there's something to it because, again, we hear these dumb answers every single
Right.
time.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something there. What it is, I don't know. Like, there's obviously parts of the story where I go, that's just weird.
Right.
I mean, they literally.
I mean,
had
it's
a
all
moment
weird.
from signs. Oh, for sure. But they definitely had a moment from signs. That's for sure. Aliens were all up in the house.
Yeah. That scares me still. I know it's funny, all these bullets going everywhere, but that still scares me. I'm traumatized. I got to admit it. This still scares me.
It makes me want to go outside and look around. Like I want to see. I want to see something like that, Nick. I want to see it.
Like, I'm terrified of them, Bert, but I still go outside and look around for them. But I'm scared at the same time. It's a weird fascination.
I mean, it's very believable based on the fact that we hear the same things over and over again.
Right.
But I feel like they had to have embellished something. But again,
Yeah.
to go through that much ammo, good night. You're shooting at something.
Yeah. Like, you don't just do that for the fun of it. I doubt back
No.
then if they are insured for shooting up their own house. Like, I doubt it.
I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think so. That wouldn't be covered.
No. Right.
When did
They
this
got
take
children
place again?
there. In the 50s, I believe. I'll
Hmm.
tell you exactly in just a moment. Oh, I don't know if I have this right. Sorry. August 1955.
1955.
Right.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So the police just said there's no evidence this happened, but there's no evidence of a fraud. Something clearly happened here. There's no neighbors shot up. We think it's owls,
That is
but yeah.
That one annoys me. They need to
I
come up
know.
with something better than owls. Owls
Yeah.
is just so dumb. Like that's
Right.
such a dumb answer to give.
These people
That
have
makes
seen
no sense.
owls before. Like,
That's
they
what I'm
know.
saying. They're on a farm. They're
Yeah.
on a farm. It'd be like saying, "Oh, I've never seen a bat before."
Right.
Whatever. Like when
And you
you're
know what?
out in the country, you see these
Yeah.
things. You know
Right.
what everything looks like.
And owls don't live in giant spacecrafts.
No.
I mean, I've not seen an owl nest, but I don't think it's a giant spacecraft.
No, they're not huge, like with glowing lights and
Right.
dripping green stuff
Right.
typically.
Right. And that thing
Um,
that fence just started glowing
Yeah.
green, 'cause
Whatever.
of
Like those
fungus.
are horrible. Like if it was me, I would want to know what it is.
Yeah.
So why they would just come up with these lame reasonings
right.
blow my mind.
Yeah. And here's the part where I said before, what's the family's motivation here? What are they
Well-
trying to do?
Blowing up their house like they did, I don't know that there would be a motivation.
Right.
But I do think that there's a series of people because I shouldn't tell the story. I'm going to. I have
Okay.
a friend that a lot of times he'll tell me a story and I'll
Mhm.
go, and I sit there and I think to myself, what's the motivation in this blatant lie?
right.
Like, I know it's a lie. I know it's a lie.
Yeah.
And I even look at them and they look at me like, listen, this might be a lie. Okay. But I sit there and I think, like, what's the motivation? And sometimes I feel like people just want to feel special, or
Right.
you know, maybe they're having such a bad time with life, they just want to feel like the center of attention for that time frame.
Yeah. So, some people just like to mess with people.
That is true. Listen, my kids, they don't know if I'm ever telling the truth or not,
Right.
no matter
right.
what it is, because I just like to mess with my kids.
That's your job as a father.
Technically, I do that with everyone. So I got to tell the story just because it's kind of funny to me. I'll probably get punched for it later. My wife and I were watching a movie, and it was, what was that space movie where they go up in space and they're working on the satellite, and the asteroid hits the satellite and blows it into a million different pieces?
Gravity.
Interstellar, is that what it was? Or Gravity? It was Gravity,
no,
yeah. So we're watching this movie, right? And we're sitting there, and I just look over at her straight face and I go, it's hard to believe this is based on a true story. And I just go back to watching the movie. And there's this long pause. And she goes, what? And I look back over and I said, yeah, it's hard to believe. And then I turned back and she goes, this is based on a true story? And I said, of course not. And I go back to watching the movie.
You know what? You are getting punched later, I'll bet.
Oh, I probably, yeah. You know, it's funny because whenever there's stories about me, that's generally the story that's told about you can't really believe anything that Birch says. So
if you see an alien, no one's going to believe you anyway.
No one's going to believe it. I'm the best person to come Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. I'm the best one, aliens, if you're watching this, because no one's going to believe the story anyway.
Right.
The Men in Black don't even need to come. They don't need to debrief me.
If we get on a podcast and you look me in the internet eyeballs and say, yeah. I saw an alien, I'm going to believe you.
Thank you, Nick. I'm glad someone believes me.
I'm on your side.
But I don't lie to you, Nick. I don't lie to you, Nick.
That's right. I know.
Just everyone else.
Yeah, that's right. I'm the kind of sucker that likes to believe that too.
I mean, listen, hey, it's good for me. There is one more picture that I can see that you sent me, Nick.
Yeah.
Is that coming up?
I don't see it, but is it the black and white one of the farmhouse?
I can just see the words. It says Sutton Farm.
Yeah, that's probably a picture of, that's where the overhang was.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Yeah, it's not wildly fascinating. It's just a real life proof.
It's super fascinating, Nick. We're going to put that on our Instagram. If you're not looking at our Instagram, you better go check it out. Because
you're missing part of the story. If you're not on Instagram, you are
missing part of the story.
You're missing part of the story.
Of course, on the YouTubes, I do put the photos up there during the narration parts.
That's even better. Go there.
Yep. You could go to YouTube, Instagram, you name it. With the Instagram, though, it's going to be quicker because it's literally going to be, you just look and there it is. But
it's just pictures.
Just pictures, yeah. This has been an interesting one, Nick. I like it.
It is. Well, it's sharing my trauma. It's healing for me too. It's healing.
Healing. Wow.
Yeah.
See, you're being able to move on from this, Nick.
Nope.
I'm like a therapist all of a sudden. I've just now figured this out.
Now I'm just scared, and so are the rest of you.
Yeah, that's valid. That's valid. I want to see what it would be like to see something like that. Like I said, I said this a while ago. I had a family member that also saw a light in the sky. I told that story. I've never had it. And I've done astronomy looking up in the sky, and I've only had one occurrence, and it was a freaking satellite. It wasn't even anything that exciting.
Yeah. Well, I could say something like, you can, like, if you see something really outside of what you accept as reality, it's hard to describe it. And sometimes if it bothers you enough, you can forget things.
Oh, for sure.
That you only remember later.
Well, they even talk about that like in crime scenes and stuff like that.
Right.
Like if you get robbed, it's very hard to actually describe the person that robs you on most occasions.
Yeah.
Simply from the standpoint of, it's almost like your brain tries to erase that thought process.
Yeah. It's protecting you from
Right.
and overload, basically.
For sure. 100%.
So that stuff happens, and I can attest to that.
It's very interesting. I do see it looks like there's a little bit more to the story. Is there more with that, Nick?
Yep. This is the grand finale. So we're almost.
Is this where
there.
it goes into the hypothesis?
There's a little bit more that happens
In the story than what's here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, I got to know.
Do you
Nick.
want to
I
hear
got
it, or
to know.
should we stop
Can I
it
click the
now, or
button?
do you want to hear it?
No.
Maybe
No,
we'll
Nick.
just end here. No, just kidding.
Nope.
Let's-
I will click that button, Nick. Don't make me do it.
You click the heck out of it.
Without any further evidence or investigation to be made, the Suttons had no choice but to return home and begin the cleanup process that night. The mystery takes one final turn the following morning when the sheriff returned to take further statements. He found the Sutton farmhouse to have been mostly cleaned up, but the Suttons and most of their belongings were gone. It was later discovered that the Suttons had been attacked once again at 3 in the morning the following night. They decided to pack up all of their belongings and leave. No Sutton ever lived in the farmhouse again. While there are many theories about the cause and reason behind the attack on the Suttons and what actually happened, the Suttons stuck to their stories and proclaimed them true even on their deathbeds. This terrifying event remains a mystery to this day.
Dun,
And that's
dun,
the
dun.
attacked
You
again
know-
the following night.
Here's the thing, though. It takes me back to, see, you start to lose me again. When you go,
Mhm.
when you be
Mhm.
extra in
Right.
a story, you start losing me again because it's like, what's the odds of this happening? And then what's the odds of it happening a second time? Like, again,
Right.
if aliens are such an advanced, like, I like to think to myself that, you know, as I've gotten older, I've gotten wiser.
Mm-hmm.
And things that I would have done in my 20s, I wouldn't do at my current age of 25.
Right.
You know, I've had 5 years to grow and advance in my thought process.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the number one thing I don't want to do is I think to myself, I really don't want to punch this person in the face no more. Right.
Right.
So I have to
right.
think if these aliens are so smart, why would violence be the thing that they want to go back to?
Well, here's the thing. They've not hurt anyone except the guy they grabbed by the hair.
That's pretty
Right?
much up there.
Oh, well, they're advanced. They don't have weapons. They can't figure out a way to get into your house. They can't land their ship on your farm. Like, I don't know. It almost feels like they were messing with them. Just seeing, like, how do they behave or something like that. Because someone told me recently that there's a huge correlation between intelligence and cruelty. Like, the higher the intelligence, the more cruelty capacity someone has. Or not just people, but, like, you know, dolphins and stuff. The smarter they are, the more cruel they behave sometimes. So it could be that kind of scenario.
Yeah. I guess I could see that. I guess.
Yeah. I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm just saying, what is it? Like, what could it be? Because these people left their whole house, moved away.
Well, they shot it up. What? They're not gonna
Right.
sleep there.
Yeah. Why? Well, I mean, why'd they do that? Like, what would be
Maybe
the
they
master
didn't like
plan?
it there no more, Nick.
Maybe they could have
Maybe
just
they
left.
just
Though.
got tired of it.
Could they have just
You know,
left?
They went over to. Well, they could have just been like. I mean, I guess it could be a case like the landlord up their rent. They're like, we're not paying it this month. In fact, we're gonna blow this mug up. You know what I mean?
I think they owned it.
Like, oh well, there goes
Yeah.
that story.
I
don't know.
would
It's
say
very weird.
fame and notoriety.
Yeah, but they didn't go after that. They didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't go that direction. Like no one's.
No.
Listen. I've never heard of the story before.
No, one of them did. I think one of the men wrote a book about it just decades and decades later. But even on their deathbeds, they said this happened. Like we're not ready to come clean. This happened.
Hmm.
But going back a little bit, they interviewed. So you can get a bunch of adults to lie in cohesion pretty well. The kids,
For sure.
that's the trouble spot. The police take the kids separately. They interview them. They tell them the whole story, except that they weren't outside when they went to look at the craft. So they don't know any of that. So the kids tell the same story and they stick to it.
Having kids, though, I mean, listen. I have my buddy Jebediah go outside with a flashlight and shine it through the windows and stuff. My kids wouldn't go outside. There ain't no way in the world my kids would go outside. But on top of that, they would believe it.
Oh, you think that they fooled the kids too, huh?
I'm saying they could.
They could have.
Definitely
See, I didn't think about that.
Kids are very subjective. They're so simple. You know, I have this talk often with people. It's like, you know, I feel so bad for young kids in general because they're so easy to manipulate.
Yeah.
That it's like, and so many people use their kids for manipulation.
That is true.
You know, like when we talk about fame and notoriety and stuff like that, and even some TV shows that's been created, people are feeding their kids this information as the gospel.
Yeah. See, I didn't take that into account. I only thought, they would tell the kids to lie about this and that. But if they convince the kids that it was happening, that's an easy way to fake it.
There's one UFO case that I know of where kids are involved, but a very different kind of story.
Right.
And that one I believe. But this one, like the kids never really saw it. But again, you know, kids are more apt to run and hide and like they don't want to see what's going on.
Right. Yeah.
So
see, I never thought about that part.
Yeah, that part for me is not necessarily the sell point.
Yeah. I guess my main thing is I can't figure out motivation. And that's usually something you can sort of guess at.
Yeah, motivation is definitely something I try to look at when I'm looking at these different cases that we're doing is what would the true motivation be, right? And I think in every single one of our stories, like there's no motivation.
Yeah.
Like Robert Johnson, no motivation.
Right.
Shag Harbor, no motivation. The Mothman, no motivation. Motivation years later, right? Like with the Mothman, they build an entire city, a tourist attraction around it, but not at that moment.
That's right.
And I feel like most people typically don't even want to bring attention to it, which we've talked about a few times too.
Nowadays, it's not that bad, but like back in the olden days, you say anything even mildly strange, you're shunned, you're ridiculed. So,
for sure.
Like today, I could say, I saw an alien or something like that, and probably no one's gonna lock me up in an asylum or something. But back then, strong possibility.
Oh yeah. It's definitely up there and something happened. I just don't know what that something is.
Yeah. Super sale on ammo, I guess. I think we can at least agree on that.
Of ammo.
Yeah, ammo was cheap that week, I'll tell you. It had to be.
Good night. They was they was prepared for this event. They knew what was going down.
Yeah, well, I mean, everyone where I'm from has a case of ammo. That's all there is to it. So.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, it's Canada land. You guys have big animals up there. Moose. Doggone mooses, Nick.
Oh, you don't got to worry about the moose. It's the goose that gets you.
The gooses. You told me, break your arm.
Yep, that's right.
Screw the geese.
Yeah.
I'm staying away from them, Nick.
Yeah, they'll punch you right in the groin, too. It's not good.
Golly. I've never been scared of a goose until I talked to you. Good night.
Yeah. You ever head up this way, just be careful, man.
We'll have to do this one day, Nick. We'll have to go on some sort of a ghost hunt or something one of these days. We'll have to.
I definitely want to do that. 100%.
Oh, definitely. We're going to have to. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this story. I've never heard of it. This is a first for me. In a town's called Hopkinsville.
Yep.
So I'm going to look more into this because I'm curious where that is in Kentucky, and if obviously my mom knows anything about this story.
Yeah. I'm hoping she's just like, that's a bunch of crap. This is what really happened. That's what I'm hoping for.
She might even know who these people are. Who knows?
She's going to say, Nick, there's nothing to worry about. You don't have to be scared anymore. This was all.
Don't got to be scared.
That's right.
Or she comes back and goes, listen,
okay.
I wasn't going to say anything to you.
I just got shivers thinking that. Oh, no.
Oh, man. Listen. Oh, my gosh. Listen, we're going to put all this obviously on the Instagram. Definitely wherever you're listening to us at, whatever that little beautiful podcast device or application you're using is, leave us a review. Let us know we're doing a good job. Also, here probably, we've kind of threw the format of our show off a little bit. What typically happens is Nick chooses a topic, I choose a topic, community chooses a topic, and then we do like 2 or 3 little shorts. Because of obviously Circleville being a little bit longer one with 2 episodes, we kind of messed up that format a little bit, which honestly, I would love to have more 2-parters.
Oh, me too. I love that.
I love 2-part stories.
Yeah.
So if those happen, they happen. And generally probably what we'll cut off is the 2 to 3 little mini story episode, because I feel like that's less involved. But here soon, I am going to put out a little poll as far as what you guys want to hear from us from a community story. We still have some from last time, so you don't have to worry about giving me the stories from last time. But if you want to add to it, definitely add to it. You can private message me on any of the places where we are, any of my personal socials that I do personally. Or if you know me IRL, if you know Nick IRL, hit him up. Or if you know his socials, hit him up. We're going to combine the list together, and much like what we did last time, on maybe live on a stream, we'll choose it, or maybe I'll record it and put it up on the YouTube and obviously all the socials, so you can see, hey, this was truly select. This wasn't Bert and Nick just choosing something.
I mean, we could,
great one, Nick.
Could, but no, we wouldn't.
We could. You guys never know.
Yeah.
Maybe we program the AI to do it.
That's right. That's right.
You never
I'm
know.
a programmer. I could do it.
Nick is a programmer. This is a great story, Nick. I love this one a lot.
I'm glad it entertained you, and it got some of that conversation going that I'm really looking for. The story's just a tool.
And that's what it's all about. Exactly. That's what this is all about. And the cool thing is, all the people that I talk to, typically IRL, my real life, that's listening to these, they tell me about it too. They're like, hey, did you know this? And did you know that? That's the best part of these stories. Yeah. For sure.
Stories is what it's about. When you're living your life, you're just collecting stories. And if you've got a lot of them or good ones, you're set. You've made it.
You've made it. It's what life is all about.
That's right.
Well, thanks everyone for listening. Y'all have been freaking superstars. Until we catch you in the next one, goodbye.
Bye-bye.